What's the biggest plot twist you've seen in real life? Little town I grew up in had these two car dealerships on opposite sides of town, one Chevy, one Ford. They were bitter rivals. Attack ads, poop-talking salesmen, billboard wars, you name it. When the owner of the Chevy dealership died, it came out he'd also owned the Ford dealership by way of a shell company. No one saw that coming, including a lot of the higher-ups who worked at the dealerships. That sounds like the ultimate bored rich guy: buy two car dealerships, have the managers poop-talk each other and watch the fight. I graduated law, and got engaged to the girl I had been with through university. We both applied for the same graduate program and ended up working in the same office in Canberra. 3 months before our wedding I found out she was cheating on me with our mutual boss, and I broke it off with her. Long story short, it got really, really ugly and the two of us ended up in a very bitter court case over property. Canberra is a pretty small city and the legal world is pretty bloody small there, too, and everywhere I went I bumped into my ex. It was beginning to seriously get me down, her too, as it transpired, and I applied for an Australian government overseas development job in Tuvalu, a Pacific island with about 11,000 population. It's quite a prestigious job to get, with only 2 positions offered for a 2-year contract on a rotating basis. I was successful in the application and moved on island to start my posting. To discover that my ex was the other successful applicant. I spent the next 2 years sharing a tiny office on a tiny island with the person that I quite honestly loathe more than any other in the world. My grandfather's funeral. He was always a fairly reserved and distant father as far as I understood. Would fit the stereotype of a northern dock worker who comes home expecting dinner to be in the table and then goes to the pub all evening via the bookies. Anyway, an unsurprising heart attack later, we're all gathered for his funeral. We're a big, but close family so we know everyone, including his friends. However, one guy turns up, about the same age as my dad and his siblings who nobody knows. Long story short, turns out it was my grandfather's son. From another family. From another marriage. That went on for as long as his marriage to my grandmother. My grandfather had maintained 2 marriages over 40 years, having 7 children with my grandmother and just the one with this other woman. They knew about our family and kept away, and apparently my grandmother knew about them but kept quiet. Turns out he wasn't going to the pub every night. 1991, I'm 19, just signed the lease for my first, solo, apartment, just got the first paycheck from my new job. I deposit the paycheck at an ATM, another first. I'd always gone into the bank to do it. 2 weeks later, I get my bank statement in the mail, and see with horror I have only $1.87 in my account. Way wrong, I should have at least $200, I'd been very careful with my spending. I'm freaked, I came within $2 of bouncing my first rent check. I'm literally reaching for the phone to call the bank when the phone rings. It's the police, asking if my ATM card was stolen. I check my wallet and the card is missing. My job at a theater pub came with cash tips so I didn't use the card often, and tell them I was going to call them anyway because I was missing $200 from my account. Well, we've got your card, and your $200, so come down to the police station, they tell me. I can't figure out how they have my card and the cash. Doesn't make sense. I drive down there. Detective says someone, let's call him Bob, pulled in to use an ATM and saw a man acting suspiciously while he was using it, moving back and forth as if trying to dodge the camera. Bob says the man then left the ATM, got into a car, and drove away at high speeds as if fleeing. Bob then went to the ATM and put his card in, which popped out. Bob then withdrew $200, and then another ATM card popped out. My card. Bob's card had popped out because the crook had left my card in the ATM before speeding away. Bob realized he had withdrawn the money from my account and not his, so he brought my card and the cash to the police and reported the attempted theft. The detective gives me the description of the crook. According to Bob, it was a man 5 feet 7 inches, brown hair, round gold-rimmed glasses. I say out loud, so, about my height, my color hair, and glasses like mine, before realizing Bob was describing me. I'd never deposited a check in an ATM before, so I was moving back and forth, following the instructions on the screen, filling out the envelope with my account number, punching the amount in, etc. I then forgot to take my card out and just left because I'm a fudging idiot. I drove away at high speeds because I was 19 and that's how I drove everywhere. Worried the detective might be annoyed, I didn't tell him I was the crook, I just thanked him and left with the money I stole from myself. Somewhere in a box in my closet I still have the police report where I'm both the victim and the perp. I was a Starbucks barista before the whole names on cups thing was big, or at least, it wasn't really practiced in my tiny store. There was this very cute guy who came in maybe 4 to 6 times a week. A little often, but nothing out of the ordinary. I flirted like mad. He flirted back. It was all great. Then he comes in with his fiancée. I was betrayed and treated him coldly from then on. A month later, 2 of him come in together and I find out that they are twins, and I'd shot down any chance I had with the single one. One of my good friends in high school started hanging out with this guy from the other public high school in our city, and before long they were basically joined at the hip. She had a huge crush on him and was pretty sure he liked her too, but she'd never had a boyfriend before and was too shy to make the first move. One night they were hanging out and he told her he had something huge to confess: he was gay. They remained close friends. Then a few months later at a party, the guy introduced all of us to his younger, by 1 year, brother. The dude and his brother looked similar, had similar personalities and the exact same sense of humor. Fast forward 20 years, and my friend is happily married to the brother, her best friend is her brother-in-law, and he and his husband are godfathers to her kids. Sometimes the painful crush on the gay dude pays off. Edit. For those who feel bad for her husband for being second choice, or think she just substituted him for the guy she really wanted, here is the context you are missing. When she met her now husband, she was already pretty much over his brother. She became friends with her future hubs, and it wasn't until a year or more later that they started dating, after slowly developing feelings over time. Her crush on his brother was brief and adolescent, and she 100% loves her husband for who he is. Yes, the qualities the two brothers share in common were part of what made her develop feelings for both of them, because those are the qualities she finds attractive. Trust me, folks, there is no victim in this story. Everyone ended up happy and loved. Love heart. I was seeing a guy from Tinder for a couple of months, but it fizzled out and we stopped talking. I was on Tinder again shortly after and matched with a girl, I'm bi, who told me to follow her on Instagram. I noticed the Tinder guy also followed her, so I ask how she knows him. She hits me with, he was dating my best friend for ages, but they broke up a couple weeks ago because he was fudging some girl from Tinder.
Did you end up telling her you were the random girl from Tinder?
My response was, oh poop, and she managed to guess from that. I messaged the best friend as well to apologize, and she seemed really nice about it. When I was a teen some 25 years ago, I played trumpet in the school band. We did a Halloween parade, but I had nothing to dress in costume for. I decided on a large black sheet with a hole in the top for my huge ponytail to stick out from the top in all its glory of crazy frizzy poof of curls, and a hole for my face and arms to stick out. I got a lot of, "Da fudge are you supposed to be?" I don't know, a what's it I suppose. Anyway, after the parade, my mother wanted to see my locker before leaving, just a surprise check for anything not allowed. We pass by the auditorium and notice a talent show just beginning. Mom pressured me to enter playing my trumpet. In this weird what's it costume no less. By the time I was to go on, I still had no clue what to play. I felt silly in my Halloween costume getup when nobody else was in costume unless they were dancing or a magician act. I walked down the aisle towards the stage with trumpet in hand, contemplating what to do in my nervousness. Heard whispers among the crowd. As I climb the little 3 steps of stairs up on the stage, I trip and fall up the remaining 2 stairs. I'm so clumsy. So I stand up and play it off like I meant to do that. Began acting silly and tooting my horn like a duck. Did a silly dance to an improv version of the most basic song to play, Hot Cross Buns / Three Blind Mice. Ripples of kids are giggling in the audience. I see my mother's face contorted in displeasure that I'm not being serious enough to win this. Too bad, Mom, this is my time to shine in all my goofy glorious weirdness. I wiggle my top knot poof, and play a few jazzy bits of songs some older folks should know. Then to finish off, I act like I'm swimming a bit and begin playing Under the Sea from The Little Mermaid I had learned the year before. End it with pretending to drown as I left back down the stairs without falling. Mom took me out in the hall to have her fit for about 10 minutes while the last contestants finished the show. She then goes off to look through my locker while I put away my trumpet and prepare to leave. I wait for her by the auditorium exit. They begin announcing the winners. I won first place. Suck it, Mom. Edit. Edit. Today I learned my mom was a helicopter. She was always overly protective and watched everything I did. I wasn't allowed out of her sight often. But she did make me do my own work and applications when it came to my education. During the last year of my grandfather's life he had dementia and was having trouble keeping track of reality. Before he was placed into hospice he kept complaining about a man that was in his house. He would say that he would come around at night and that he was taking his things and using his stuff. Grandma of course kept reassuring him that she was the only one there. His doctor increased his medications because he was losing touch with reality so badly. Fast forward to my grandfather's funeral and a man showed up that wasn't known by more than a few people in the family. Turns out he was an old friend of my grandmother's who showed up to give his support. In a small town like that it wasn't exactly an unusual thing to have random people show up to the funeral home who knew the person at some point. Well, about a year later my grandmother let slip that she is seeing someone, the guy from funeral. At this point nothing too odd, they got to talking at church and we thought it was sweet. Then a bit later sweet innocent old grandma mentions that it's their 3rd anniversary. Grandpa died 2 years prior. This man was the person that Grandpa saw in his house every night. He was the reason that everyone thought Grandpa was going crazy. He was the reason that my grandfather was medicated to the point of being a vegetable for the last horrible year of his life. Too long, didn't read. Grandpa thought he saw someone in his house before he died. Turns out it was Grandma's boyfriend. My buddy and his girlfriend took a train to London to see a band play. It was a long journey, almost an hour, with a few stops, and once they were one stop away from London they realized they didn't have the concert tickets. They got off the train, checked their bags, searched every pocket, checked their bags again and decided to go back home to look there. They got back and found the tickets on the table in the hall of their house, and headed back out again. When they were arriving at the station for a second time, they had to wait because there was a potential bomb threat. It turned out there was an unattended bag which was being checked over by the bomb squad. Whose bag? My buddy's girlfriend bag. She'd left it at the station after looking for the tickets. This isn't my proudest moment either, but whatever. I was 19 and I had just started a job at a new sushi restaurant. Well, the manager that was showing me around my first 5 days was young and pretty cute. She seemed flirtatious, but I wasn't trying to push or assume anything because I was a new hire. Well, after that week, she went on a vacation for a month to the Philippines, so I kind of forgot about her. Well, a month later she returns and she is out drinking. So at 2:30 in the morning I get a random call from her saying that she has been drinking and is now driving, which I hate, and she wanted to talk to someone. Anyway, after a lot of bullshit from her end, she ends up at my place cause she needed to go to the bathroom, and I wanted her off the road. She ends up deciding she can't/shouldn't drive and she wants to stay the night. So I set up the extra futon for her, cause she is my manager and I ain't trying to cause no problems lol. Well, she decides that she sobered the fudge up when I turn out the lights and she starts getting talkative and flirtatious. Things escalate and I end up stopping it before we have sex. At this point it's 5 in the morning and I ask her, "You good to drive?" She responds, "Yeah, I should probably get going. My husband is at home waiting for me." What the fudge? Too long, didn't read, manager was too drunk to drive. Stopped by my place and played around, then decided to tell me she has a husband. I was at Bank of America during the banking crisis. Our CEO's lifelong ambition had been to see the Wall Street banks humbled, which he achieved when all were forced to reign corporate as regular banks. 24 hours later he was ousted. He had literally one day to enjoy his victory before the rug was pulled from under him by the board. I was so moved I emailed him. I'd never met him. He responded graciously to thank me for his support. If they made a movie of that moment, folks would think it was made up. Thank you for watching the first of, what I hope are, many videos that I will be posting. If you have any thoughts or criticism, good or bad, then I would love to hear it. Otherwise, please remember to like and subscribe. And seeing as you've made it this far, why not leave a comment with your answer to the following question? Which would you rather? Fight 6-foot-tall Brock Lesnar? Or fight 1-foot-tall Brock Lesnar's? Let me know in the comments below.